Hello and welcome back to the Scoop with Coop. I'm of course Coop, and in today's video, I was going to talk about how this World Cup, right? How you had all of these upsets coming in the round of 32. As a matter of fact, the game going on right now, France and Sweden. France has been absolutely annihilating Sweden, even though the game is only 1-0 in favor of France. It's halftime right now. I'm recording, in favor of that because I want to watch it and then get some content put out about the round of 32 matchup so far. But in today's video, we're going to talk about some NBA trades that have happened, right? Free agency hasn't officially opened, right? But so we've had a ton of the moves for trades and then also some of the smaller like re-signings going on. And so without further ado, let's jump into some of the trades, right? The one trade I will not talk about is the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade to the Heat, as I've already posted a full video about that. If you're interested, you know where to go find it. Go to the channel, go to the video, click it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, as that's pretty cool as well. But the first trade that we're going to speak about is the Ja Morant trade to the Trailblazers. And, when you think about the name Ja Morant, right, I'm sure a lot of, what people think about is the guy who was able to really bring the Grizzlies into a new era, right? They had the grit and grind era. They had that little bit of the ugly duckling phase where you had the kind of young guys, but nothing really going on with it. And then you had a couple of decent years in the playoffs. And I think that version of Ja Morant, for lack of a better term and word of it and everything, is dead. That Ja Morant doesn't exist anymore, I don't think. Ja Morant played 20 games last season, had 18, 19 points, and he had 19 and a half points with 8 assists, right? Still good, but he doesn't contribute to winning anymore. The athleticism is gone. The burst is gone. The shooting was never there, but if it was, that is gone as well. Ja Morant is a much worse player than he was. And that's why you see him getting traded to the Portland Trailblazers for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray, right? Looking at it from the Trailblazer side, give up Jeremy Grant. They've been wanting to give up Jeremy Grant for ages. Jeremy Grant probably, already knew I'm gone anyway, so respect to the organization, appreciate it, but I'm out of here. Chris Murray, he's someone where at this stage, was a late first-round pick, and is somebody who really just takes up a roster spot at this point. I mean, he isn't somebody who necessarily is a big difference maker, and what's interesting about this for the Trailblazers is it probably points to that they're making more moves, where their point guard position now is Scoot Henderson, where he had a good playoffs, and I think he improved a lot, and I see no reason whatsoever in which you get rid of his services. You have Damian Lillard coming back, right? And I think that just from the standpoint of we're not a big market team, we're a small market team, so we have to operate kind of like it, where we have to do kind of the reunion stuff. We have to do all that stuff. So you've got to have Damian Lillard playing minutes. I would be surprised if he's not at the very least the sixth man. And then you also have Drew Holiday there, right? So you have 3 point guards who could be playing real minutes, and then you add in Ja Morant. So what this signals to me is that Scoot Henderson and Damian Lillard are going to come off the bench. Those two, and then I think you get rid of Drew Holiday, see who wants him, whatever. And that allows you now to kind of rehab an all-star where if you were to trade Ja 2 years ago, you're getting so much. And you're giving up a player who you were going to get rid of anyway, and Jeremy Grant, or at least you wanted to get rid of, and Chris Murray, who, let's face it, no disrespect to him, who cares? Genuinely, all right. You are giving up the equivalence of, I know people, make the joke of, a bag of potato chips. This is the, pinnacle of it. This is nothing to give up. And in return, you're getting a player who, just a couple years ago, was an all-star, somebody who could be viewed as the face of a franchise, and was a consistently good player. If it doesn't work, all right, cool. We move on. We didn't give up much. We just bench him, right? We put Scoot back in the lineup. We put Dame in the lineup. Who cares? If it works out, we just got an all-star for nothing. This is the ultimate cool. Perfectly happy with that move. I see no reason to be upset about this for the Trailblazers. A little bit interesting now, where you kind of have an abundance of players here, where you have, Ja. You're going to have to get rid of Drew. I think that's 100%. But then you're going to have a lot of minutes to guards here, and that's not a big fan of that. Prefer giving more of those minutes to wings just in my general philosophy, especially for guards who are small. That isn't great. But I do think that you know what you're not competing for a championship. This trade, if John Morant rehabilitates his career into the player that he was, you may have just gotten yourself enough assets when you trade him because I don't think he's going to be here the long term. But if you can rehabilitate his career and you are able to get him back to where he was, you trade him, you get all those assets, you have won. Right? Not only were you a playoff team, but you get all of those assets coming in. You get the development from the players. Also, hopefully, this frees up some room for like Donovan Clingan if Ja plays well. And I'm not even worried about necessarily like getting none of the minutes to your younger guards, as Ja again only played 20 games last year. So it's like again, this is a nothing to lose trade where it's like if it blows up in your face, we got rid of players who, let's face it, don't have any significance whatsoever. Absolutely love this trade. And I'm surprised that no other team reached out. Like I would have been like I know the contract for Ja isn't great, but like you're telling me that like if you're Denver, you're not thinking, let's see if we can go like get well then again the defense have been terrible. But I think that just kind of shows that there's no market for John Morant. For the Grizzlies, they had no market for John Morant. Get somebody in Jeremy Grant, who's is a decent player, right? Chris Murray, you rehab him right, who knows? Same thing, where it's like you're not going to get as much as you would have gotten for Ja a few years ago, but he could be a decent player. Cool. Next trade up, very new, Kawhi Leonard to the Toronto Raptors, and I saw something on my timeline that was really funny on Twitter. That as soon as Kawhi Leonard catches a RICO case, he immediately is fleeing the country and going back to Toronto because I think there was no way that Kawhi Leonard was ever going back to LA just from the what happened standpoint, and then from the just pure basketball fit. We'll start about with the what happened, right? The Clippers a couple years ago invested invested a ton of money into this company in which Kawhi Leonard was a shareholder of, and Kawhi Leonard kind of benefited from, or no, what they did was they invested into a company, and that company paid the exact number that was invested into them into an endorsement deal for Kawhi when Kawhi never did anything like promoting the company. And so they did pay Kawhi, and Kawhi took a pay cut. Kawhi got paid money without going through the salary cap. They kind of roundabout way going through it. Should 100% be investigated for sure. I know they already are, but the lack of progress is kind of ridiculous. And then also moving over to the basketball point of it, right? The Clippers, they're kind of in a new era, right? They had the number 5 overall pick. They took Heaton Wagler. They have a guard for the future in Darius Garland. They have their forward, more like the 3 who they want to build around in Benedict Mathurin. You have your center-ish if you want to build up in like Yonan. He has a crazy last name, but he's kind of a younger center. And then you have your kind of assets, and it's just kind of time to move on, and it's just whatever. Like you gotta it just doesn't fit anymore. And he also is on a 1-year deal, right? This is his last year of his contract. Didn't want to extend him, and you get a very good return for this. Like you get Brandon Ingram, who, maybe he'll play the 4 for you if that's something you want to do. Grady Dick, right? He's someone where, a couple years ago you thought maybe he could be something, kind of stagnated and kind of gone downhill a little bit since when he first came into the league in that first year after. But if you can bring him back, he could be a very solid 3-point, like 3-and-D guard, which that is heavy in abundance, but, Grady Dick really needs to improve. 2 first-round picks, a pick swap, and 2 second-rounders. Like, this deal isn't really about the players as much. Like, sure, Brandon Ingram's cool. Grady Dick, sure, he could be something, maybe, at best, like a role player. But you get all of these picks, and this is a lot of picks to get, I think. Like, this is a great trade for the Clippers. Like, they won this trade 100%. Because you move off of somebody who you're not going to keep. You got him for a lot. You sold high on him. You didn't run this thing back to go out in the playoffs. And you really now have a decent core here. Where when you think about this team was lacking draft capital, you have it. You have something. And it's like you have some of the swaps from OKC. I think. You have, just some later round picks. I have some that could also be later round picks as well. But 2 late first round picks could be moved into something, right? A pick swap, right? That's cool. If you want to suck for that year of the pick swap, you can do that. Well, technically, you can't be terrible anymore because it's more beneficial to be the 5 through 8 instead of being 1 through 4 because Adam Silver's NBA. And then 2 second rounders, cool, whatever. But for Toronto, this is a lot to give up. And I know that, Kawhi Leonard, all-star, right? He's a phenomenal player. But does he really help your window of what you're trying to do? This much? Because I don't think you're going to compete necessarily. And I think that, it's more so about just putting a competent basketball team out there, which they're going to do now. So I guess from that standpoint, sure, it's a win because now Toronto isn't going to be a laughing stock anymore because it's you've got Scotty Barnes at the 4, Jakob Poeltl at the 5 if you really yippee, if you feel happy about that. You got Quickly, RJ, and then you've got, Kawhi. That's a decent core to win 50 or so games and win a playoff series or two. Not or two, just a playoff series. Or two over a playoff series each year, totaling up to 2. Because I don't think that the Raptors would ever no, they're never making the conference finals. The score, and I mean, I don't think that was the goal. I think it was more so just to be a competitive team. I mean, I think that could this help the development of Scotty Barnes? Absolutely, because Kawhi Leonard is better at everything when compared to Brandon Ingram. But I do think that that is a lot of draft capital to give up for a 2-year window. Actually, a 1 year when you have him on contract, and then you're going to have to pay him even more money when he's going to be even worse. And you don't know about the injury concerns. That is a lot to give up. But if things go right, you're probably a tough second round exit. At the very least, Toronto's bought back in, right? And you've helped out all of your young players develop. I mean, I think this is a decent trade for the Raptors, but I think the Clippers absolutely won this one. And moving on, not moving on, more so moving back to the first decent trade we have. The Timberwolves, basically salary dumping Julius Randle, the Nets, and moving back 5 spots in the NBA draft as a result of it. This trade, when I didn't make a video about it at the time simply because I knew that something else was going to happen as a result of it. And, speaking of things that happened, right, as a result of this trade, that freed up the space for the Timberwolves to go get LaMelo Ball and Josh Green, and for the Timberwolves to give up Naz Reid, a 2023 first-round pick, completely unprotected, 3 first-round pick swaps in 2028, 2029, and 2030, and 3 second-round picks in 2029, 2032, and 2033. So for the Timberwolves, this is kind of their last chance move to where there's a lot of talks about Anthony Edwards getting a little frustrated with the lack of progress that the team has made. This is his last chance. This is the front office's last chance of keeping him happy. And I think that, LaMelo Ball, right? I have his jersey, I have all that stuff. Realistically, I am worried about the injury concerns. I am worried about, could he only play 30 games and the Wolves crash and burn? And Rudy Gobert gets hurt because of all the burden that's put on him because nobody else is a decent big except for maybe Johan Berenger, which who knows. But I mean, this is a lot to put on Rudy Gobert. This is a lot to put on your depth, I think. Just because, I mean, you don't necessarily have an insane amount of depth, and you give up one of the best depth pieces that you have in this. Now, I know you get Josh Green back, but respectfully, he's not Naz Reid. And I think this is a tough trade for both teams' fan bases to accept because it's we gave up our franchise icon, and we gave up somebody who was a franchise beloved or a beloved player for our franchise in the case of Naz Reid. But I think this is kind of a win-win for both teams. It's clear that Charlotte, they've wanted to move on from LaMelo. It's clear that they've wanted to go into a new direction. And it's clear that they want to build around 2 players in the case of Brandon Miller and Con Knippel, right? Because they make a later trade on that we will, talk about later on. And I don't mind this from the Hornets from the aspect and lens of, we want to build around our two young guys. We want to get them more opportunities to be more on-ball creators. And we don't love the idea of them being more so catch and shoot and having everything set up by LaMelo. And LaMelo's play style, who knows if it translates to winning? I know the second half of the year stuff where they're the best offense in the NBA and like top 10 defense in the NBA, but you got absolutely gobsmacked by the Orlando Magic in the play-in. So I mean that does worry me a little bit. Of like how can Brandon Miller and Con Knippel adjust to being more on ball. And for the Timberwolves, one last note, they have no draft capital whatsoever, so they're kind of stuck with this like group, and they do need like a power forward. Like unless you want to put Jaden McDaniels at the 4, which I'm not the biggest fan of personally. I mean, I think that magically, somehow, if you were able to go get like John Collins or something, that would be like, all right, I feel great about your team. Now I just feel okay. Like I feel good about your team, but I don't feel like they're winning the championship. And I also think that when you look at it from a championship lens, they're trying to compete with the Spurs and Thunder. I don't know if this lineup is better than them, but at least it gives you more of a fighting chance because Julius Randle like reverted to dubious handle and Foulius Julius. Like he was bad in the playoffs, like historically. Like he was bad, 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 booty cheeks, buns, like every possible adjective that you could come up with that is a negative. That was what he was in the playoffs. And one last thing, in this trade, for the Hornets, they now have the largest trade exception ever. I think with like $40 million or something. So I mean, they want to go get a star, Jaylen Brown. I might have to make a separate video about you, because looks like maybe Charlotte was maybe Portland. I mean, many teams that, Jaylen Brown's being shopped to, but now Charlotte, they can go out and get a star if they really want to do that. I don't see why you would. But overall, for both teams, I think the Timberwolves, I mean, you basically swapped Julius Randle for LaMelo Ball, which, I mean, it might be, like, sure, a little bit of the assets and stuff, but, like, you're still getting, you're only technically giving up one first-round pick in technicality, because you're still getting back 3. You're just swapping the worst of which they could very well be your own picks. Like, they could very well be, you just get your own picks back. Like, that's what it could be, so I don't mind it for, Minnesota. I think that it's just about the injury concern, and as well as, are you putting too much on the plate of a, like, 34-year-old Rudy Gobert? For the Hornets, I think, good trade, right? I mean, you do what you got to do, because you're clearly moving on, and you're going into a new era. And speaking of the Hornets' new era, right, they trade Miles Bridges, a 2029 first-round pick, and a 2027 second-round pick for Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, and a 2023 first-round pick. The fact that we are now doing trades into 2033 is kind of crazy. That is crazy to think about, that they traded Miles Bridges and a first-round pick for a middle schooler. Like, that's kind of crazy. But they have a ton of those draft assets just far enough down the line to now they have 2 2033 first-round picks of teams who knows what they could be. Like, that is great general managing to where you're thinking about the future. I don't love how, knowing the Hornets, they kind of move suspect, where who knows if that general manager is still going to be making picks at that point. But I do think that, like, I'm not going to defend Miles Bridges whatsoever, so you're not going to, like, no. As a basketball player, took a step back, not the same. Don't love him at all. So that's a win in my opinion. Giving up getting back Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal, 2 solid role players. Who knows? Like they scream to me like deadline players, where like when a team's desperate and they think they're really close, like 2 first-round picks. Like I think you could get a combined 3 first-round picks for these guys. So I mean, it's like if you really are able to play your cards right, you could get 3 first-round picks for Miles Bridges. And when you pair that with LaMelo, with all of the LaMelo Ball assets, like you're getting a ton of draft capital here and for the future. I love it. And for the Suns, first of all, I don't know what you're doing. Like your team was the 8th seed last year. Like you were a fun team, but everyone kind of knew the moment you run into any of the big dogs, you were getting absolutely annihilated. And that's exactly what happened. And your solution to that is go get Miles Bridges. Like, you have no draft capital. You have nothing. Like, you are building the ultimate ragtag team of rejects. Like, that is what you're doing, right? And it worked for Colin Gillespie. But, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Why they keep doing this instead of just kind of like doubling down on it. Like, I know you're in a crappy position, but you don't need to double down on it and say, you know what? We're going to be good for 1 year and we're going to suck for that year where we're going to be awful. We're giving up the pick to that. Like, that person, that player could be the one who's able to get you back to relevancy in 2033. Like, genuinely, why? Why are you giving that up? 2029. Okay, cool. I think the Hornets are going to be better in 2029 than I don't trust the Suns at all to manage this right, and they're probably going to trade 2029 for a bag of Lay's and a soda. Like, they love giving up first round picks. I despise this whatsoever. I despise this entirely. So those are the big trades out of the way, and then I'm going to go into two signings and then one kind of announcement thing. So the first signing is Kristaps Porzingis signing an extension with the Warriors. This is an interesting signing to me. 2 years, $40 million. The Warriors were trying to do a unction type activity where you have Curry. They're going to like a shooting guard. Who cares? Like, that was probably going to be Bradley Beal or something. LeBron James, Draymond Green, and Anthony Davis. Like, they were rumored to go trade Jimmy Butler and a couple of draft picks for Anthony Davis. That got nixed. And then going out and signing LeBron James. Because Draymond Green took a $27 million, not pay cut directly, but he had a $27 million player option. He declined it, and he's going to take a lesser deal with the team. I have a feeling I would be flabbergasted if he leaves, based on the way that he's speaking on his podcast and such. But the fact that money kind of goes to Kristaps Porzingis, and Porzingis now takes the $15 million MLE, mid-level exception, out of the off the table is kind of crazy for Kristaps Porzingis. And for as much as I said John Morant's availability concerns, Kristaps Porzingis might be even worse than he is. Porzingis is the worst availability concern. When he was in the finals with the Celtics, the injury / whatever he had going on with him was according to Google, he was one of 9 people ever who have been diagnosed with what he was having. If there is any possible way that he can miss games, it will happen to him, and it's just really unfortunate. But he has less than 50 appearances per season over the last few years. That makes it really tough, and especially whenever you're going to be an older team, presumably, that makes it really tough to feel great about it. And this takes away some of the big money that you can give away as a mid-level exception. Again, Porzingis is a good player when he's available. He's just barely available. And for a team that's going to be old, that isn't great. And you really want somebody who's available as a center. That just isn't great. So, this is not a great signing in my opinion. I know it's not a lot of money, but he just isn't available. And the final signing is Andrew Wiggins with the Heat. I like this, right? Not bad whatsoever. So he's picking up his $30 million player option and then signing a 2-year, $34 million extension. Not bad whatsoever. He's a good player still. He is absolutely crucial for what they're trying to do with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bam Adebayo, right? Where you have a good two-way wing and able to shoot the 3-ball well and able to be a good on-ball creator a little bit, at least better than the alternative. And he's absolutely crucial to what they're trying to do. They lock him down. That's absolutely big. Now, it does put a little bit of concern on whether or not Norman Powell re-signs with them, because Norman Powell was the all-star, and he averaged over 20 points, and that was enough. When I graded and talked about the Giannis trade, it was under the assumption that they're both back, seeming to be more and more unlikely, right? It does make it harder for Norman Powell to come back, and so that makes this signing a little bit, uncomfortable to think about, because probably the better player is going to leave in the case of Norman Powell. But I do think that, it's you're not overpaying for him, but it will suck if Norman Powell leaves, because he would have been absolutely crucial for the, for the aspect of what the Heat were trying to do with, Giannis, Bam, and then having some switchable wings and good shooters out there and all that. Unfortunate if Norman Powell does end up leaving. And then the final bit of news is that LeBron James will not sign with the Lakers. Like, he will not go back to the Lakers, and he's told the Lakers basically, look elsewhere because I'm not playing for you again. And, when thinking about, this LeBron Lakers tenure, right, it has been very interesting because I don't think it's surprising that he's leaving more so. I think it's, like, interesting that he's going to take less money just to play elsewhere. Probably. Because the Lakers could pay him money. Like, they could. It strictly was, I don't want to play for you. I'm willing to play for anyone. And, like, for him to go out into the public and say, yeah, I want to play for happiness, not for money anymore, that's not something that he really does. Like, he's famous for not really taking pay cuts. And it's just interesting because, like, this is LeBron's longest, like, technically, the longest time he has been on a team. Because he's been on, 3 teams. He was been on the Lakers the longest for an individual stretch. Like, technically, Cleveland still wins by, I think, like, 3 years. But he, like, in one, like, single stretch being with the team, he was with the Lakers the longest. So it's going to be very weird to not see LeBron in a Lakers jersey. Going to be very weird not to think about LeBron as a Laker because, honestly, the majority of the time that I have seen LeBron James play basketball, it has been with him in a Lakers jersey, right? It'd be very interesting to think about one of my favorite players not being on the team that I kind of pseudo-associate him with. It can be very interesting. It'd be very interesting if he ends up going to Golden State. That would bring up a lot of interesting dialogue and a lot of very interesting discourse around his name. But this was kind of the whole weekly review of some of the NBA trades that have happened, right? We're going to get some more World Cup content out. I promise. And when you're interested in seeing that, make sure to go ahead and subscribe because then, you're a part of the community, part of the fam, right? You get to do all the, cool stuff of, bragging that you're a subscriber because that's pretty cool. But make sure to go ahead and subscribe. It's absolutely crucial to the channel. We're on the hunt to really grow to 75 subscribers by the end of this World Cup. I've got a lot of work to do on my end to keep up with that, but make sure to keep subscribing as it's really, really cool. But this is the Scoop with Coop, and until next time, so long, everybody.